Hello and welcome to the last of our modules in Mastering Tech Standardisation with ETSI. This time we're going to be talking about one of the partnership projects. As I mentioned earlier, there are two of these that ETSI are involved in, 3GPP and 1M2M. 3GPP is the place where all your mobile phone specifications are written. They created 3G, 4G, 5G and are now starting working on 6G. The project was created to have a single global mobile standard. This has allowed phones to work anywhere in the world with a single standard. The regional standards bodies all got together. Originally, there were 5 of them. Then we added some more. It now covers all of the major regions of the world. It is administered and hosted by ETSI in the south of France, and it works on releases. So the first thing to note is that all these G's that you have seen are not really releases. So how does it work? Well, each of the releases adds functionality, and sometimes the marketing people decide that it's a big enough change to be called a new generation. And so this is when we have a new G coming along. The way that the organisation is set up is that we have plenaries across the top. There are 3 plenaries. There's one that looks after networks and terminals, one that looks after the radio, and one that looks after systems and service aspects. There are different working groups below these. If you go onto the 3GPP website, that's 3gpp.org this time as opposed to the ETSI website, you'll be able to find all the information about those groups. 3GPP work in a very similar way to ETSI. We have work items, and from these specifications are written. One thing to note is that there's a large number of individual members who take part in these discussions. As you can see from ETSI, there are about 446 members. The first thing to note here is that it's actually a lot lower than the total number of ETSI members, so that not all ETSI members take part in 3GPP. Other organisations are also taking part. From China, we have CCSA, from India, TSDSI, Korea, TTA, and Japan, ARIBE. And we can see the split between companies and the members. One thing about anything to do with 3GPP is that the numbers can appear frightening. But don't panic. They are big. Everything about 3GPP can be scary from the outset, but once you break it down into individual features, you can figure out how to look for stuff. And you'll be able to find information very, very easily. First of all, here is the number of specifications. We're hovering around 1,800 specifications. You know that's a lot of documents. I recently tried to work out how many pages there were. In Release 16, there are 165,745 pages. I wouldn't advise printing them all out, but they do cover everything from the area interface to the core network protocols. They're easy to find, they're split up by series. And again, if you go onto the 3GPP website, you can look at those series and then you can download the specifications. Again, anybody can download them, they're open to all. One thing to note is that we saw in the previous module about the version numbers, and I mentioned about corrections. Sometimes the specifications aren't necessarily correct. Sometimes we write the specifications before we've actually implemented them. And when we're implementing things, we find faults. Because of the large number of pages in the specifications, it's hardly surprising there's a large number of corrections. When new features are added, we also create change requests. Here's the numbers. You can have a look at 2023. where we're hovering around 17,000 corrections and additional features. The document to make these changes is called a CR, or change request. And again, member organisations can have a look at those change requests and it will explain what the problem is, how to fix it, and then we'll show you the changes required in the specification. The Secretariat, also known as MCC, will actually implement those changes and update the version numbers of the specifications. Releases. Releases are the way that we generate major additions in functionality to the specifications. Over the years, 3GPP has improved many parts of the system, including changing the air interface. We've gone from CDMA to an OFDM based air interface. We work on all sorts of things to make sure, for instance, base stations can talk to each other if the fibre link goes down. We've got features to reduce the complexity of the mobile phones if we want a low complexity device. You name it, 3GPP do it. The way it works is that we start off with requirements, or what we call stage 1. Then we move on to normative work in stage 2. That starts with the architecture. We look at the changes required for the architecture, and then we work on the detailed specifications in what we call stage 3. We saw a little bit earlier about ASN.1. We also have open APIs and tend to complete those a little bit later than the stage 3 work. 3GPP are starting working on 6G. They held a workshop for release 20 a while back. The requirements for 6G have now been written and the studies are underway. Exact timing may change, but the specifications should all be completed for early deployment by 2030. Here you can see the timescales for the study phase. To get more information, check out the 3GPP website, which provides regular updates. The current plan is to complete the studies by mid-2027. Finally, a quick summary. If you want to learn more about 3GPP, then go onto the website 3gpp.org. You can watch some videos. There are quite a few instructional videos on there. You can read a specification. If you've done a communications course and you've been instructed in the world of OFDM, go and have a look at the OFDM specs. I warn you, they're big and complicated, but hopefully you'll see the implementation of why some of these technologies are getting developed. Thank you.